Okay, where's the book at? Man. Oh, sorry about that, guys. So, I have a review today on a book that I got from Savers, which is a store where things are used, but they are donated. They sell all kinds of stuff there. They sell really old games, furniture, decorations, toys, books, DVDs, like jewelry, all kind of things. You name it, they have it. So I am a very huge dog lover. I love animals, but I love dogs more than anything else in the world. And there was a book that actually caught my eye, and it came out to $3.18. But of course, everything there is pretty much cheap because it was already used. Hold on a second. What? What? Did you call me? Okay, sorry about that. So, this book caught my eye, and it says Broadway Tales, Heartfelt Stories of Rescued Dogs Who Became Showbiz Superstars. So one of the main stories that I've actually been reading right now, I'm actually on chapter 3, so I haven't really gotten far yet, but I started reading this book the very first day I actually brought it in the store. And I've been reading the show about this show it's called Annie, and there's this little girl who adopts a dog by the name of Sandy. And Sandy was a rescue dog, and I believe he was abused, and he was very scared. And he is a golden retriever mix with a cocker spaniel, I think. And I believe this is him on the cover. And it does have pictures in it, so that's what makes it cool. This little girl starts growing very attached to this dog. Now, at first when she bought the dog, he was very terrified. Of course, every dog who is abused will be scared of humans. And this dog would always be hiding in the corner, terrified. But when this little girl met this dog, the dog started taking a very strong liking to her. And this girl was extremely patient with dogs. She was very good with dogs who were abused. The day when she went to get him, he was actually going to be put down the very next day. So she decided to come up with a plan where she would show up extremely early before the other co-workers, because she had to get the permission, or she had to let her managers know that she was going to go and buy this dog. So she came in, and she was able to buy the dog in time. And she started training him, feeding him, taking care of him like family. And he started growing very attached to these little kids around him, and she became this professional actor, and her dream was coming true. So I believe in this chapter she's actually 20 years old now, so she's a young adult. So yeah, and it does have pictures in it, so it shows pictures of the show. Some shows takes place in New York City and all that. So we're gonna read the back of the book. So it says the inside stories of rescued dog animals who made showbiz history. Bill can do anything you ask, has enormous love for and control of the animals, and is kind to them and to humans. He is the best one and only. Bill Berloni is a master of his profession. His experience and patience are welcome in any rehearsal room. Bill's genuine love and respect for animals has always been foremost in my thoughts of him. He is guided by compassion, empathy, and kindness for all beings, qualities too rarely seen. Bill Berloni has provided animals trained to meet the demands of live performances, from Broadway to ballet, as well as film, television, and commercial work for more than 30 years. His pioneering human training techniques have won multiple awards. Bill is also currently behavior consultant to the Humane Society of New York, and he lives in Connecticut. So yeah, it does take place in Connecticut and it also takes place in New York. Jim Hanneran is a writer and Bill Berling's brother-in-law. He lives in Connecticut with his wife, daughter, in a house full of animals. And then it says, Bill Berlin was a 19-year-old theater apprentice when he was offered his big break, the chance to act professionally if he could find and train a dog to appear in the original production of the Broadway hit Annie. Defying the odds, Bill rescued a dog from a local shelter, and together they redefined what animal performances could do. In Bonnery Tales, Bill tells the true stories of throwaway animals who came back to co-star with some of the entertainment biggest names, from Richard Burton to Sarah Jessica Parker. Here you'll meet the original Sandy, who stared for 7 years in Annie. St. Vito, the deaf bull terrier who saved the show. Pi, the first dog to dance with the New York City Ballet. Chico, the Chihuahua with attitude who became the face of one of Broadway's newest hits. Often funny and always touching, these and other stories demonstrated the extraordinary things rescued animals can do. That is so funny because my dog's name is Chico. Isn't that right, puppy? Isn't that right, puppy? My good boy. Guys, I can see him. I'll show you if you can get up for a minute. Well, this is my dog. Are you a good boy? Are you a good boy? And his name's Chico as well. Isn't that funny? And Chico actually means little boy in Spanish. So yeah, that's basically what this book is about. Yep. So this is what all the pictures are basically black and white, so that's what they look like. So I could read this chapter. I'll read you chapter 3. Probably not the whole thing, but I'll read you some of it. Okay. Might be some time consuming, but hey, it's worth it. With the success of Annie and the touching company that was on the road, 1979 was a great year. The only thing that could have made it better would have been another Broadway show, and that's exactly what happened. One of the production stage managers for Annie was Jerry Adler. He was a big fatherly type, very loving, and got along with everybody. To him, I was just a kid. Jenny had many years of experience, but he was the type who came into a show, stayed for a while, then was always moving on to the next thing. He soon left Annie to take over a revival of the musical Camelot. What made this production special was that Richard Burton was coming back to recreate his role as King Arthur. Alan J. Lerner, who wrote the original book and lyrics, was going to be involved in updating the production. In late 1979, Jerry gave me a call and said, "I'm doing this show and I want you on it, kid. We need a sheepdog to walk on stage and sit there, do nothing, and then walk off." Now, prior to Annie, no one thought that you could train a dog to be a character in a Broadway musical or any stage event for that matter. Before Sandy appeared in Annie, most shows that use animals used them as props. Sandy appeared in Annie, most shows that, or sight gags. In Camelot, King Arthur has a friend named King Pellinore, a confused but comical character who owns an old English sheepdog named Hornet. Pellinore is always getting lost and relying on Hornet to help him find his way. The joke, of course, is that a sheepdog has a lot of hair over his eyes and can't see where it's going. So Hornet is always leading Pellinore in the wrong direction. So I could do it again. Could I get another dog to perform on stage and make the same magic? I started my search through the pounds of New York City, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Now, Old English sheepdogs are breeding dogs. Wait, I'm sorry, not breeding, herding dogs. they have thick coats to protect them from the elements. And they're very high energy, and they need a lot of exercise and a lot of grooming. Sometimes they can be good with families, but sometimes when their predatory instinct comes out, they're not so good with children and other small creatures. Most of the sheepdogs that I was hearing about were the bad ones. They had bitten someone or were out of control or too wild. By now, I was very popular with the animal shelters in the New York City area because whenever I could, I would bring Sandy to help out with the publicity for the cause of homeless animals. So I was able to call the shelters to the area and ask them to help me find a certain type of dog. The Associated Humane Society in Norwalk, New Jersey called me back and said that they had a big sheepdog mix that they thought was very calm, very quiet, and that would be good for the show. The Associated Humane Society is the central animal rescue group for Norwalk, so it gets a lot of strays, and I was met by the assistant executive director, Rosine Treza, who gave me a tour and then led me to the back. At the end of an outdoor run was a big, wet, grayish, hairy thing she called Bob. 3.5 years old, owner surrendered, very sweet. As we opened the door, he slowly turned his head and lumbered back to us. He had to be one of the ugliest dogs I had ever seen in my life. He was probably about 70 or 80 pounds, with a long pink nose and bald patches on his body. Unlike the beautiful pedigree sheepdogs you see in the books or Disney movies, Bob's hair was thin and stringy, and he had a tail, not something you'd see in that breed. And this was a little rat-like tail with one hair on it and at all. He was a sight, but I was immediately struck by the fact that he lumbered over, sat down, leaned against me, and looked up at me with these big brown eyes. I couldn't resist him. I stood back and looked at him and asked why his coat was so bad. Their guess was probably poor diet and being exposed to the elements. But with a little love and affection and some proper treatment, we could make him look better. I put a leash on him and took him for a walk, and he didn't pull me down the street. Although he wasn't a true sheepdog, I thought that with the right grooming, he'd be even funnier on stage because of his skinny, hairless tail. So I decided to adopt Bob. Finding an understudy was not as easy. Again, as I looked through the shelters, most of the dogs I saw were aggressive. Then I visited an animal control agency in another New Jersey town where a dog had been turned in because she was too much work. She was a beautiful specimen with gorgeous long hair, and she was smaller than Bob, only about 65 pounds, but she was like a tornado. She was one of those dogs that never stopped moving and always trolling around, easily distracted. She was sweet with people, sweet with other dogs, just very high energy. Her name was Daisy, and I decided to adopt her too. Within a month, we had the 2 dogs we were going to use on the show. I waited a month before I brought Bob and Daisy in to meet Jerry and the rest of the team because I wanted to make him look as presentable as possible. Even after a month, he was still a mess. So when I walked Bob into the room, everybody's jaw just sort of dropped, and then they laughed. That's not very nice. Okay, guys, so that's all I'm going to read. There's still a lot to read, but I don't really want to spoil everything. But I hope you enjoyed that video. You could probably get this book on Amazon. I'm not sure exactly. They only had one, which is no surprise there because pretty much everything at Savers is basically donated. But if you do get lucky, you could probably find this book on Amazon. It's a really good book, and I really enjoy it. So I guys hope you enjoy that little sample of the book that I read to you guys, and I'll be doing more soon.